Have you ever wondered what would happen if we detonated all nuclear bombs at once? Let's start by understanding the power of a single nuclear bomb, and there's no better example than the catastrophic events that unfolded in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Back in the year 1945, the world witnessed the true power of nuclear energy when it's unleashed as a weapon. In the blink of an eye, cities were leveled, reduced to rubble and ash. The sheer explosive force was unlike anything humanity had seen before, and the aftermath equally horrific. The bomb dropped on Hiroshima had an estimated yield of 15 kilotons and Nagasaki 21 kilotons. To put that into perspective, a single kiloton is equivalent to 1,000 tons of TNT. That's right, 1,000 tons. Imagine a freight train filled to the brim with TNT, then multiply that image by 15 or 21. That's the kind of power we're talking about. And those were just the immediate effects. The fallout, the radiation sickness, the environmental damage, those are scars that lingered long after the bomb's detonation. Now consider this. Today, there are roughly 15,000 nuclear bombs in the world. That's 15,000 Hiroshimas and Nagasaki's just waiting to be unleashed. The power contained within these weapons is mind-boggling, incomprehensible. Consider the bomb known as Tsar Bomba, detonated by the Soviet Union in 1961. With a yield of 50 megatons, it was over 2,000 times more powerful than the bombs dropped on Japan. That's the equivalent of 10 million tons of TNT. And yet, even Tsar Bomba represents just a fraction of the world's total nuclear arsenal. The combined yield of all the world's nuclear weapons is estimated at around 6,800 megatons. That's over 450 times the power of Tsar Bomba. So if one bomb can cause such devastation, imagine what 15,000 could do. The world's nuclear arsenal is a force to be reckoned with. When we talk about nuclear power, we often focus on the destructive potential of a single bomb. But the reality is, our world is home to a vast array of these weapons, each with their own devastating capabilities. Let's start our journey with the United States and Russia. These two nations possess the lion's share of the global nuclear arsenal, accounting for over 90% of the world's total nuclear firepower. The United States, at the peak of the Cold War, had over 30,000 warheads, while Russia boasted a staggering 40,000. Although these numbers have significantly dwindled today, they still represent a formidable force that could wreak havoc on a global scale. Now, let's step away from these two giants and take a look at the rest of the world. Countries like France, China, the United Kingdom, Pakistan, India, Israel, and North Korea also possess nuclear weapons, albeit in much smaller numbers. Yet even these smaller stockpiles could cause catastrophic damage if deployed. To truly comprehend the combined power of the world's nuclear arsenal, we need to compare it to something we can all understand. So let's imagine a natural disaster. The most powerful earthquake ever recorded, the Great Chilean Earthquake of 1960, released energy equivalent to about 22,000 Hiroshima-sized bombs. If we were to detonate every nuclear weapon on Earth at once, the resulting explosion would dwarf this earthquake, releasing energy hundreds of times greater. In essence, the world's nuclear arsenal is a sleeping giant, a dormant volcano waiting to erupt. It's a collection of mankind's most destructive creations, capable of reshaping our world in ways we can barely imagine. All these weapons combined have the power to reshape our planet. It's a sobering thought, isn't it? But it's also a reminder of the responsibility we carry as stewards of this Earth, to ensure these weapons remain unused, their power kept in check for the sake of our shared future. Let's imagine for a moment that all these bombs detonate at once. The first thing that would hit us is the blast wave. Think about the shock wave from a single nuclear explosion, then multiply that by the thousands of nuclear weapons around the world. This shock wave would rush across the globe, flattening everything in its path. Buildings, bridges, mountains, nothing would be safe from this wall of destructive force. The sheer power of the blast wave alone could wipe out entire cities, reducing them to nothing more than rubble in the blink of an eye. Next comes the intense heat. It's like being at the heart of the sun, but on Earth. The heat from the explosions would be so intense that it would incinerate everything within its reach. Imagine a heat so intense that it could turn sand into glass and set the atmosphere itself ablaze. This scorching heat would be so overwhelming that it could cause firestorms on a global scale, turning forests into ash and cities into infernos. But the devastation doesn't end there. The nuclear fallout would be the long-lasting legacy of this catastrophic event. The radioactive particles released by the explosions would contaminate the air, the water, and the soil. The fallout would spread across the globe, carried by the winds and the ocean currents, poisoning everything it touches. The fallout could make vast areas of the planet uninhabitable for centuries, if not millennia, and all of this would happen almost instantaneously. The detonation of all the world's nuclear weapons at once would not be a slow, drawn-out event. It would be sudden, brutal, and all-encompassing. The scale of the destruction would be beyond anything we can truly comprehend. It's not just about the number of bombs, but the cumulative power they represent. In a flash, our world would be unrecognizable. But the detonation is just the beginning. In the wake of this cataclysmic event, we would find ourselves thrust into a chilling nuclear winter. Picture a world where the sun is blotted out by a thick layer of soot and dust, where temperatures drop dramatically, plunging the world into a deep freeze. The aftermath of such a detonation would create conditions akin to an ice age, making it nearly impossible for life as we know it to continue. The nuclear winter, however, would be just one part of the ordeal. Another, perhaps even more harrowing aspect would be the spread of radiation. The immense amount of radioactive fallout released by the detonation would permeate the air, the ground, the water. It would be inescapable. The radiation would cause sickness and death in large swathes of the population, not just in the immediate aftermath, but for generations to come. Radiation sickness, a terrifying condition characterized by nausea, weakness, hair loss, and severe skin burns, would become commonplace. It's a slow, torturous way to go, brought on by the very atoms in our bodies being torn apart. And it doesn't stop with us. The radiation would mutate the DNA of all living organisms, leading to widespread deformities and diseases. The collapse of ecosystems would be another devastating outcome. The radiation, coupled with the cold, dark conditions of the nuclear winter, would make survival for most species extremely difficult. Plants unable to photosynthesize would die off, causing a domino effect up the food chain. Animals would starve, forests would wither, and entire ecosystems would crumble. These effects wouldn't be short-lived either. The radiation would linger for years, even decades, poisoning the Earth and its inhabitants long after the initial event. The nuclear winter could last for several years, preventing the world from healing and recovering. In essence, detonating all nuclear bombs at once would not merely be a single catastrophic event. It would be the start of a prolonged period of suffering, a chain of disaster that would persist for an unimaginably long time. The Earth as we know it would be fundamentally altered, its vibrant life and beauty replaced by desolation and decay. Our world would become a nuclear wasteland. So, what would happen if we detonated all nuclear bombs at once? We've journeyed through a hypothetical scenario that, while unlikely, has given us some perspective on the sheer power of nuclear weaponry. Let's recap. Firstly, we delved into the power of a single nuclear bomb. We understood that even one nuclear detonation can cause massive destruction, taking lives in an instant and leaving a long-lasting impact on the environment. It's a force that's beyond our everyday comprehension, a testament to the destructive potential that humanity is capable of. We then moved on to the global arsenal. Thousands of nuclear weapons are scattered around the globe, held by various nations. The numbers are staggering, and the potential for destruction is immense. The sheer volume of these weapons of war paints a daunting picture of what could happen if they were all detonated simultaneously. The detonation itself would be an event unlike anything we've seen before. The immediate impact would be devastating, causing immense loss of life and infrastructure. The resulting shockwaves, heat, and radiation would change the face of the Earth in a matter of moments. But the aftermath is where the true horror lies. The long-term impacts of such a detonation would be catastrophic. We'd see a nuclear winter, with the sun blotted out by the dust and debris thrown up into the atmosphere. The climate would change, with temperatures plummeting globally. Crops would fail, leading to widespread famine. And the radiation would cause long-term health effects, impacting generations to come. This isn't a scenario anyone would wish for. It's a grim reminder of the power we wield and the responsibility that comes with it. It's a call for disarmament, for the pursuit of peace and diplomacy over conflict and war. In short, detonating all nuclear bombs at once would lead to an unimaginable catastrophe, changing life as we know it. So let's commit to ensuring that this remains a hypothetical scenario, never to be realized. The survival of our planet and the future of humanity depend on it.